I'm not seeing nothing pop up online.
Well, you're live.
Welcome, viewing audience. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Bilalian Voices in the tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. This is episode number 65, and today's date is April 16th, 2026. We begin by greeting as we Muslims greet. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
We're thankful again to be here for another episode of Bilalian Voices. Today we have as guests the Special Assistant and Representative to Muslim American Leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad, Imam Ibrahim El-Amin. Before we get into our discussion, we would like to introduce ourselves officially. My name is Terenzo El-Amin. I'm an imam and business owner of El-Amin Priority Distributors.com, located here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm joined with my co-host out of Rochester, New York, Imam Hanif Abdul Wahid. Before we get into our episode, we'd like to share with you some announcements associated with the leadership of Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad. Special city of Newark, New Jersey, for a brothers meeting addressing the community of Imam W. Deen Mohammed with a public address by Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad. This special brothers meeting will take place on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. The theme for the public address is faith, leadership, and community integrity, protecting our vital interests. The brothers meeting starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. It will have a break at 12 p.m. and the public address will begin at 2 p.m. at the Courtyard Marriott in downtown Newark, New Jersey. This is an event that's free and open to the public. For more information, you can go to MuslimAmericanMinistry.com. Join us every Sunday for our WDM School of Islamic Thought and Practice. This class is taught by Muslim American leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad. It is free and open to all persons with a sincere and serious disposition towards Islamic education and scriptural sciences, the acquiring and sharing of useful and beneficial knowledge, and respect for the natural learning environment. You can go to eamspeaks.com, hit the tab WDM School of Islamic Thought and Practice to sign up to participate in a class that is offered every Sunday at 9 a.m. the WDM School of Islamic Thought and Practice. Again, we say, Assalamu alaikum, Imam Ibrahim.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We're thankful to have you here for our 65th episode of Bilalian Voices in the tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. You know, when we were preparing for this episode to have you on tonight, I just thought about, the significance of 65 episodes that we have access to that is a benefit for the public of America in displaying a new mind coming from this tradition, the guided tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. So it's a pleasure for us to have you on tonight. And what we wanted to do, we wanted to go into a clip coming from the special class that takes place on Sunday morning, conducted and led by Muslim American leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad, in which you asked a very poignant and significant question in regards to the leadership characteristic of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. We want to play this clip and then discuss it with you on the other side.
It's going to come from Imam Ibrahim. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
It's going to come from Imam Ibrahim. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Imam.
Walaikum assalam.
And class as well. Again, my appreciation again for this morning's program. It's a pleasure not only to hear what is offered during living in the most serious times, but to be able to actively participate in the conversation is something that much appreciated, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us in terms of how much we value that program. I was talking with Imam Rafiq last week, and one of the things that came up in our conversation was the fact that he has this huge collection of Imam Muhammad's addresses throughout the years, and in most of those instances where the Imam is teaching in these addresses, they're public addresses. It wasn't a very frequent thing for him to be speaking only inside of a masjid to an audience of Muslims. Now, we know that when he would visit a city, the likelihood is that, a large part of the audience that would come to see him would be Muslim, perhaps from our community. But nonetheless, the setting was something that was open and available to the public, and the language public address was used quite often. And since Imam Muhammad's passing, with the exception of yourself, there has been no Muslim leader associated with us that has used that language public address, nor have they conducted or offered public addresses. I don't know of any other situation in which they're speaking that's not just something taking place in the masjid, speaking to Muslim audiences, the local congregation, perhaps maybe even just sort of a regional congregation of Muslims from the area. What is the importance of the public addresses that we do now under your leadership? Places like, we know, and you've spoken in depth about the importance of specific locations like Newark, in particular, Detroit. But if you could give a general sort of perspective on the importance of us conducting these public addresses in this present time, despite the fact that you could say, in a sense, we're rebuilding and perhaps the numbers aren't quite where we want them, we insist on having them. Could you speak to the importance of those public addresses and our insistence on continuing this particular tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, even in times that, might not be particularly favorable?
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly, it begins with Muhammad, the Prophet, to whom was his appeal made? Where was his teaching directed? To the Muslims? There were no Muslims. So he was the only Muslim, in a very strict way of looking at it. So, we have in the Quran what was revealed to him that he interpreted as obligation to reach the people, to reach the people. So I know that this was a reading of Imam W. Deen Mohammed and an emphasis of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. And, those of you who know, that I was his assistant in that regard and devoted to that. And he conditioned me to acknowledge and to understand what he wanted, and to learn from him the skill of presenting our Islamic teaching in language that would appeal to a public audience. And it has many important dimensions. The universality of the Islamic message, its universality has requisites in terms of communication. There are requisites. So we have to frame the teaching itself in language that is intended to reach any ear that is interested. And the Quran says have discussion or have exchange in the finest language, So, we have that as a principle. I don't like I'm uncomfortable drawing attention to myself in any particular regard. It is of my nature to be that way. I'm a private person and comfortable in my privacy. It is only the demand of this responsibility that makes me feel the obligation to be public. So, because of that, my concentration is on presenting our life in the most efficient way. So I don't have to spend a whole lot of time in the public. It's of my nature to be that way, So I don't want to come before people, unnecessarily. I want that it be in the context of what is the most important demand on us. And that constitutes leadership, to have that kind of discernment and discipline. I don't feel it necessary to have the camera on me to show people how I pray. What do I have to have that for? I don't feel that necessity. I don't feel the necessity of every time I have a conversation or address an audience that the cameras be on. It's not necessary. It's necessary in a context, and the context is presenting what we understand to be Islamic teaching and its purpose to the greatest possible hearing or audience. This class is to better acquaint us with our life and to strengthen our understanding of that. And I feel the obligation to do it on a regular basis, but in a way that is true communication and not dogmatic or rigid. And that's why we have this format where we have a discussion, because it contributes to persons feeling comfortable expressing themselves so that we might address what are the most important concerns and be relevant with those concerns. I had a difference of opinion with the leaders in our community about the importance of public meetings. And my opinion was shaped by Imam W. Deen Mohammed's influence. He did not want to be given speeches or addresses or a khutbah in the masjid, and that be the only activity that he had as leader. And if anybody were to say that that's not true, they would be shown to be incorrect by the record itself. That I saw where I think Imam Terenzo said that he was having a conversation with someone and they said over 80% of his addresses were public and intended for a public audience. And he had interactions with us by way of classes and Ramadan session and khutbah, where the language was different and focused on a Muslim audience. We had those experiences with him as well, but that wasn't the majority. So my difference of opinion with them was that we could attract big audiences. And if we emphasize that, and with his support, I became the imam in Baltimore, Maryland. And that's not an easy environment. A lot of internal issues and I would say conflicts and also competition in terms of public Islamic identity in the African American community for a number of reasons. You had a unique set of circumstances in Baltimore, but circumstances presented themselves to permit me to become the imam there. And my being the imam there was challenged, not just by persons in Baltimore itself, but also outside of Baltimore. Quite a few of the imams, and even at that time the convener, he had an issue with it. They didn't want to see that for some reason. They didn't want to see me. Now, this is very serious and important. They didn't want to see me in my role with Imam W. Muhammad that all of them knew. They didn't want to see me become a resident imam for some reason. And they brought the matter to his attention. And the imam told the convener at that time, he told him, quote, "Leave it. I want him there." So he knew, that is Imam W. Muhammad knew, where I would give my attention. And I would fulfill the obligation of the imam of the masjid, but also do something in addition to that. And I concluded that we could attract big audiences everywhere in the United States. And I wanted to make that known and prove that in Baltimore. So over a period of time, and not a long time, we devoted ourselves to that. And the result was that we had the largest, this is what the Baltimore Sun newspaper said, which was a major newspaper in Baltimore then and now, said that it was the largest gathering to hear a religious leader in the history of the city of Baltimore besides the Pope. Now, what did that do? It proved that even in a city like Baltimore that had all kinds of troubles internally for Muslim life and establishment and institution building, etc., even in spite of that, we could be successful with our Islamic message if it's focused properly. So in Baltimore, we had an audience at the Baltimore Convention Center, which was significant in and of itself, of 5,000 people. Now, in another city with the same kind of effort, same kind of cooperation, etc., it could be triple that. Okay? But you have to have cooperation. You have to have the people working together and understanding the vision and supporting that. Now, yeah, perhaps we don't have opportunity to reach those numbers in one setting in these days, right now. But I saw where our address in Detroit this past February for Savior's Day has reached 17,000 people. So that's quite a big number. And that was a public address. And I actually had someone, I was in a store recently in the area where I live. And the person working there came up to me and said, "Are you Imam so-and-so and so?" So, you know, I've had that experience before, and it makes me a little uncomfortable because I don't know what interest people have, you know. But I could see his spirit was positive, and I said, "Yes." He said, "Imam," he said, "I just want to shake your hand." He said, "I listened to your speech on YouTube, and I just go back to it and listen to it over and over." And then another person came by and said, he was excited, a co-worker. He said, "This is the brother I was telling you about." So he brought him over, you know. I'm in there to buy some scissors or something, you know, trying to get out of there. And so, yeah, it became a big scene, you know. But I was happy to know that he benefited from it and that he was feeling so confident in what he had heard that he was inviting others to hear it as well. So I see that we are reaching people, and we should continue and not feel like our efforts are not producing results. They are. And inshallah, you know, there'll be a day when we'll have a big meeting and have an expectation of, you know, quite a few people, and we'll be surprised that it'll be overwhelming. We anticipate that coming. But the nature of the importance of it is that our message in this time is a message of salvation. And that word is associated with spiritual life and religious community life. but it has its political components and it has its social components. It just depends on how we interpret it. When people hear that word, they immediately drawn to spiritual matters. But we have said recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've framed our message as moral struggle, the message of moral struggle, and we've attached to that primacy that is of a special nature and special importance. And in the Ramadan sessions this past Ramadan, I emphasized certain things with regard to our particular understanding and consciousness and its role in the world presently. A role of reform and renewal, which is also a synonym for salvation. So I don't see that we have any more important obligation. And I think that in time, the better those who have good intentions, who are members in our life as a Muslim people, those who have better intentions will acknowledge what we're doing, and even if they can't be present or front and center in support of what we're doing, they'll find a way to give us moral support or some kind of material support. I see signs of that.
Praise be to Allah. A lot there in what the Imam gave us in that question that by you, Imam Ibrahim. Could you share with the viewing audience what led you to that question? What were the circumstances in which that question came about for you to present it this past Sunday in the class to Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad?
Yes, as I stated in the question, that it stemmed from a conversation that I was having with Imam Rafiq Muhammad, who, as you know, and as I'm sure a good portion of your audience knows, has worked very, very diligently over the last, I want to say, almost 15 years now, perhaps a little longer, 17 years or so, to make available the public record of Imam W. Deen Mohammed's teaching. And he's, documented it extensively on what used to be known as the Bilalian Speaks YouTube channel. Circumstances didn't permit him to continue to work there. And he's still working on a solution for making this available. Imam Muhammad's addresses throughout the years is available to the public in a very unencumbered and efficient way. He's still doing some of that work on Facebook right now, but people will recognize that name that he uses. He doesn't put his name on it. He puts the name Bilalian, the term Bilalian Speaks, on the particular channels that he uses to publish this material. So I was in conversation with him, and I had another conversation with Professor Wali Shabazz, and we are in a unique set of circumstances right now in terms of our development as a people. And perhaps there may be one or two other instances in our history where the matter of leadership was confused. But I think in this particular time, it is the most confused. And not by virtue of, or I would say it's confused as a result of deliberate sabotage by elements within the community and elements outside of it. And so in order to correct or provide a pathway out of the confusion, I think that the question has to be asked, and this was the nature of the conversation I was having: what qualifies as legitimate leadership for us, and what fails to meet that qualification? And we have, firstly, the example of Muhammad the Prophet, and how his example is reflected in the leadership that Allah has blessed us with, that provided a way for us and introduced us to Muhammad the Prophet. So we have historical references that we can look at and verify, or that will provide verification for what qualifies as legitimate leadership for us and what fails to meet that qualification. And quite simply, we look at the major or the distinguishing characteristics of Imam W. Deen Mohammed's leadership. And very simply put, the interest and the commitment to present our message publicly and to have it, to engage the public with what it is that we offer as moral vision and moral commitment. The interest for that is largely lost on those who have the responsibility of leadership. And Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad, despite whatever criticisms these people continue to express privately, they don't express them so publicly anymore, but whatever they continue to express privately and covertly, it can't be said that the concern for expressing our message publicly is lost on him. And it can be said that that concern and that interest is completely lost on the other leaders, the local leaders, and perhaps some of the, I guess you might say, regional or national ones, because we don't find any evidence of them having a commitment to delivering our message in a public fashion. You stated that, or part of your conversation, Terenzo, was that there's about an 80 to 20 ratio in terms of Imam Muhammad's teaching, what was public and what was a public address, what constituted a public address, and what was more so intended for Muslim audience only, or Muslim audience specifically, I should say. I would say that perhaps the opposite is true in terms of the present leadership, or those presently in leadership now, that 80% of what they have their attention on is just speaking to Muslims, and 20% might be given to the public, if that. It is probably closer to 99.1. So this is a way of verifying an important metric, if you will, for verifying what constitutes continuity for our leadership, continuity for our interest, continuity for our quality as a Muslim community. And it's an important metric. And in this present time, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad is the only one, only person in leadership presently demonstrating this commitment, demonstrating continuity of Imam Muhammad's interest in terms of publicly representing us and publicly extending the reach of our message.
I have another question, but I'm gonna give it to my co-host, Imam Hanif.
Well, I think what you said, man, is just right on time. They've taken these masjids and make it and have made businesses out of them. The business of managing folks and their rituals. They don't go out in the streets. This is our tradition to fish or do anything like that anymore. And they have boards now. They have special titles for their imams, emeritus. What we're seeing is that all of the people who claim to follow Imam W. Deen Mohammed, they have taken the people and ritualized them, put them in masjids and made the masjids businesses. None of the masjids up under the leadership of Imam W. Deen Mohammed or have that leadership work together or anything else like that. And they're really not concerned about the public. When you started to see this trend in the latter years of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Imam W. Deen Mohammed made a public address in his early life and in the middle of his life and career. The masjid would try to pack up buses to bring people to see him. They would invite their guests and stuff like that, put them on bus, bring them to hear the leader. We don't have that spirit anymore. So they left off, and this was a plan all along. No CPC, you don't see them even talking about that. No national convention, you don't see them talking about that. And the Ramadan sessions are all over the place. And I want to add this also too, is that there's not many, if any, Christian leaders making public addresses. This thing of a public address in our tradition is being pushed out because there's a special language and a special message that the society has to get and it needs. And most of us realize that, and that's why we push that. We push that very hard. And there's no leader right now that we know of that is succeeding Imam W. Deen Mohammed, and that they're a leader for humanity, but especially the African American spirit that needs to be expressed in terms of a leadership to call the world to excellence. Imam, you have worked now tirelessly for about a good 7-8 years, going on 10 years, helping to build this ministry. And you possibly know the Imam and his spirit as well as anyone to the degree. To our audience, what makes the Imam such the unique person that he is in terms of having the commitment to succeed Imam W. Deen Mohammed?
Well, I wouldn't describe him as a unique person in that sense. I would say that we have a unique history and a unique expression of Islamic life, a unique expression of faith, and the extent to which, as individuals, we identify with a commitment to the continuity of that life, the continuity of that expression in the world, continuity of that commitment, continuity of that moral vision. The extent to which we commit ourselves to that is the extent to which we are distinguished in Allah's eyes. We have this teaching in the Quran that it is the quality of our faith, the degree of our faith, that is the measure by which Allah judges us. I would say that, this is a matter of record. He had a particularly unique relationship with Imam W. Deen Mohammed as his representative, as his special assistant. And we know this not because of anything that he has said, but because of what Imam W. Deen Mohammed shared during his own lifetime with regard to the responsibilities that he entrusted to Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad. So, you know, we as a people, we have to decide what we are willing to commit ourselves to. The question that Imam Terenzo asked, you know, public address, the thought came to me as you were speaking, Imam Hanif, that there's a lot of leaders that they might take issue with our analysis and say, well, you know, we're on platforms such as this speaking and so forth. That's not adequate. That's not sufficient. Just to get up and put your phone on and do a live stream and talk about something. That's not the it's not satisfactory in terms of who we are and in terms of what has characterized us through our history. Greater commitment is needed to preserve certain institutions. And if, you know, our idea of what constitutes a leader for us is somebody that has a live stream, and that's the extent of their public message, then really we're abandoning these qualities or these characteristics that have distinguished us, that have made us unique and have distinguished our leaders in the past and distinguished our leaders presently. We can't be afraid to roll our sleeves up and work in circumstances that might not necessarily be favorable to producing the kinds of results that we would like to see. You know, of course, we would like to have circumstances where we have large numbers and so forth, and big crowds and so forth. But that might not be, under the present circumstances, something that is immediately within our grasp. But nonetheless, we hold to the commitment of constantly reaching the public, constantly trying to address issues that affect the social environment in which we live, and not just the social environment of the mosque. We know Imam W. Deen Mohammed, the title that he used, Imam, but that wasn't the only title that he used. Quite often he referred to himself as the Muslim American spokesman for human salvation. The first identity Muslim, shaped by experiences or sensitized by experiences in America, but with a commitment to moral vision that addressed the needs of humanity and represented salvation for humanity. And salvation for humanity is not Arabic classes where you're charging somebody some money for 3 days of instruction, live streaming and tailoring your live streams to appeal to or solicit some sort of favorable promotion from the algorithms that govern these platforms, or Jummah prayer, ritualistic observance of the Jummah prayer, on the Friday prayer after the Jummah khutbah. That's not what Islamic leadership. That's not all. That's a cheapening of what Islamic leadership, what Muslim leadership can offer to a world that finds itself under the circumstances that we are presently living through.
That's a tremendous observation. Imam Terenzo.
Yes. Another question I wanted to present to you, something I had thought about, and you just used the word abandon. My mind asked the question, why did the imams, the leaders, recognizing this community, the local imams, the conveners, why did they abandon this strategy which proved to be so successful in the strategy of Imam W. Deen Mohammed in presenting our message to the public? Why did they abandon it?
They weren't qualified, and they weren't willing to qualify themselves. You have to graduate in the degree of your concern. Your concerns have to grow. They have to mature. And I think for a segment of them, a significant segment of them, their concern hasn't matured beyond a certain point. And this is not a pleasant thing to give attention to, but it can't be ignored in the context of this question that you asked. In many respects, you're dealing with the wounded self-esteem of the African American male, who, as a result of the social environment of America, was not able to, or was restricted from, finding expression for his humanity in all of the fields in which humanity finds expression. He was restricted from that, with the exception of the clergy. And the ghost of that experience has followed many of our males into Islam, where in order to get the basic needs of the basic self-esteem needs met, he becomes an imam. And the adulation of the Jumu'ah audience, after he's able to play on certain emotions, is sufficient for him. So he has no interest in speaking publicly in what Islam offers as advancement for civilization. He doesn't have any interest in that. So a segment of them have that as a trouble and as a limiting factor in terms of how they approach the role or approach the obligations of leadership. And I believe that perhaps in some respects, a smaller group, but maybe a more influential one, a more influential group in terms of how they are organized. A more influential group had a treacherous, is the only word I can think of, treacherous disposition toward Imam W. Deen Mohammed. And they saw, or they had a different idea and put themselves in, set themselves as rivals to Imam W. Deen Mohammed, and set themselves as rivals to his vision. And they understood or had an interest to see our leadership redirected in another way. So I think that those were some factors as to why the conditions are such as they are.
Yeah. Imam, on May 2nd, there's a brother's call out in Newark, New Jersey, along with a public address. What can we expect from the brothers meeting? Is that meeting open for us to bring other brothers with us? What is going to be the theme and the outcome for that?
Yes, there is in the advertisement that Imam Terrenzo showed that we distributed a few days ago. The reference is clearly to the brothers meeting is clearly referencing Imam W. Deen Mohammed's community. We have a setting in which we have to address some particular concerns to us. So we welcome anyone who has a sincere interest in discussion of our vital interests in a way that respects our masculinity. So I wouldn't say that the meeting is open to anyone that's interested. Anyone with the correct interest is welcome. Mm-hmm. And later in the day, after we conclude the meeting and there's a break, we have a setting for a public address in which we're inviting, as we stated, the public. I can say this, and when I'm referencing, you asked me earlier about Imam Abdulmalik Muhammad, what has distinguished him, and the commitment that I pointed to. Originally, we're going to. There was another brother that prompted the question of us having a brothers meeting, and he had been asking for some time because we had one some years ago and we haven't had one in a while. And so when I presented it to the Imam that, hey, there was some demand for us to have a brothers meeting and for you to address us, he agreed to it, of course. But right in the same sentence, he wanted to know what were the possibilities of us having a public address. So this is a reflection of that commitment that we're referencing. Not sufficient for us just to come to a city like Newark and address our immediate needs under these circumstances that we find our society in right now. It's not sufficient for us just to come there and address our communal needs and not address the needs of humanity. Mm-hmm. So the public address is something that we're welcoming. The attendance is the appeal for attendance is much broader than the brothers meeting earlier in the day. And I would say that you can expect from the brothers meeting what you witnessed when Imam W. Deen Mohammed had those meetings, brothers meetings. Forthright, honest, sincere, and perhaps sometimes frank, very, very direct conversation. And I don't want to say perhaps I could say confronting some of these challenges in a way that's honest, facing them in a way that's honest. And the public address later that day, similar, but tailored for a public audience. So we welcome the public of Newark to join us. And we are calling our sincere and thoughtful brothers, men, to join us earlier that morning for the brothers meeting.
Imam Ibrahim, before we prepare to conclude with this episode, we'd like to ask the question. You had just mentioned that our first brothers meeting under the leadership of Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad was in Newark. I believe that was back in March of 2022. And here we are again, approaching in a few weeks to be there again for another brothers meeting. My question for you and helping the viewing audience, why Newark? What is special about Newark, New Jersey?
Firstly, a particular receptivity, a unique receptivity to Imam W. Deen Mohammed's leadership. And it wasn't just Imam W. Deen Mohammed, it was his father too, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. A particular spiritual receptivity to what this social body represents, what its moral vision represents. And in the context of our brothers meeting, in addition to this receptivity, a certain kind of forthright quality in the people in general, and obviously expressed in the men. So it is an ideal setting for us to address some particular issues in the context of a brothers meeting, and also the public address aspect, a particular a favorable setting to address the American public from Newark. Newark kind of can functions as it amplifies. Our message is amplified in the setting of Newark. Not that other cities don't offer similar and differing opportunities for the reach of our message, but there's something particular there about Newark in terms of its receptivity.
One last question. If you are a person claiming the leadership and history associated with Imam W. Deen Mohammed, why should that person, Imam Ibrahim, be in attendance physically there on Saturday, May 2nd in Newark, New Jersey?
Because if you can and you don't, that makes you a hypocrite. Imam W. Deen Mohammed said, you know, it's a well quoted quote from him that is often repeated by us, that he said, man is mind. So we know that, you know, he's no longer here with us physically. So we don't have the setting of him coming to a particular town or city and us going and being present. But wherever his mind, wherever his thinking is being expressed in the world, we have an obligation to be there if we can, and be there in a supportive way. You can't say that you are a follower of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, and in a time where perhaps his teaching is most needed and it's being expressed in a clear and precise way, regardless of how you may feel toward the person who is expressing it, you have a moral obligation to support that person, to support those who are supporting that person, to support that effort, despite whatever your personal emotional disposition may be. Anything else, there lies damnation.
It's a good answer, Imam. Good insight.
You
Yes.
caught my attention, especially when you brought the relevance to man means mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of a lot of people saying man means mind and know that it's a responsibility attached to it that
Yes.
you're supposed to support, obligate yourself to support. Thank you, Imam.
I want to say this too. I don't. I was listening in the car. I don't remember the specific address. I want to say that it may have been in Newark, but Imam Muhammad was referencing the fact that one of the troubles for our community is that, and us as a people in general, African American people in general, is that when we have a very pivotal leader in our presence, as soon as he passes away, any spirit that we had to support what he was advocating, we lose.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have to mature and grow out of that. That the determination can't be dependent upon the person's physical presence alone. That the commitment to their vision has to extend beyond the personality. So when we are say that we're supporting Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad, or that we're followers of Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad, it's not having to do anything to do with his personality. He says in that clip that, you know, and anyone that, you know, it's funny to me, one of the criticisms that I have heard that people have said to me about him is that he's too shy, or that he's not social enough. Well, if that is your criticism, to me, that would be a hint that whatever he's doing in terms of public exposure is sincere. A shy person, a person that is not wanting to be seen in that way, is not a person that's going to be motivated by ego in putting themselves in those situations. So we have to mature. I know you closed the program out. We have to mature as a people in terms of what we say our commitments are and how we measure up to those commitments, and what we're willing to give, what we're willing to, how much we're willing to exert ourselves in the support of leadership, even after the presence of a very beloved leader like Imam W. Deen Mohammed.
Thank you, Imam Ibrahim. Speaking for myself, I appreciate your frankness. I don't think the leaders in our community have been frank enough.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, what you just said, we have to mature.
Yeah. Right. And the Imam is not shy. The Imam is not shy if you're going to follow him.
No.
You're going to come aboard.
Yeah. I should say that, it's the critique of, just who he is as a person.
Right.
Now, in terms of the commitment, there's no shyness in the commitment.
That's right.
You're not going to do 7 years in federal prison and produce a book like Democracy, Civic Virtue, and Islam.
Right.
The Muslim American Jihad Against Extremism. I told him, this is while he was still in the prison, that he was more free than all of the imams who are outside over their masjids.
Yeah. I go back 30 years with the imam. We used to bring him in for public addresses in Rochester. And the way that he was then, he's the way that he is now. He has a commitment to the truth and the stewardship of humanity. It's a real good brother. So we invite you to come to Newark on May 2nd, brothers meeting at 10 o'clock. Then
and in July, Rochester, July 11th.
We're planning a very big, I don't want to call it a celebration, but a big gathering. July 11th. What happens this year, the 250th anniversary of America, we have to have a commitment to tell a straight and clear picture of that development and where we're at in it. And I don't think there's no better person to address the American public than our leader, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad. So we hope to see you all. If you come to Rochester, we'll make sure that you're treated special. All of our guests are always treated special when they come to Rochester, New York. When they leave there, they're somewhat sad to go. But we're planning something tremendous for the American public because we respect and honor this country, as our leader Imam W. Deen Mohammed has instructed us to be the very, very vital part of it, because we was that from the beginning. So we'll see you in Rochester. But before that, please get out, come to Newark. You know, there's no snow anymore, anything else like that. It's the spring, the weather's getting better. Come and hear something that will relieve some burden up off of you. You would have a good time within our fellowship because we're outward, respectful, and we're loving to our community.
Thank you again, viewing audience, for joining us for another dynamic episode of Bilalian Voices in the Tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Before we conclude, we would like to share with you some announcements. As Imam Hanif just mentioned, the community of Imam W. Deen Mohammed's Brothers meeting will take place in Newark, New Jersey on Saturday, May 2nd. The theme for the day is faith, leadership, and community integrity, protecting our vital interests. This is an address that will be delivered by Muslim American leader, the successor and partner to Imam W. Deen Mohammed, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Muhammad. And you see on the screen the time the brothers meeting will start is at 10 a.m. We'll have a break at noon. The 2 p.m. will be the public address. It's free and open to the public. And we will be at the distinguished location of downtown Newark, New Jersey at the Courtyard Marriott. Again, this is free and open to the public. If you are in hearing of my voice, we hope to see you there on May 2nd, 2026. Make sure to sign up for the free class every Sunday called the WDM School of Islamic Thought and Practice. You can go to eamspeaks.com, hit the tab WDM School of Islamic Thought and Practice to sign up and be able to participate in an ongoing Sunday morning class that's very valuable, taught in the tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Now, we would like to conclude with the prayer, the dua of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Oh Allah, we cannot manage this life for ourselves, not without you. Please make our life where you would want it to be, where you prefer it to be. Do not allow us to act on our own. Help us to act only in obedience to you. We hear you, we obey you, and we look to you for forgiveness, our Lord. And to you is our destination. Ameen.